Hey everyone, and welcome back to the WoW News, where, holy crap, a lot has happened. We've got more of the leveling revamp with the state of Heirlooms, and you know what? Blizzard actually went and done something pretty darn neat with Heirlooms. That's exciting. We've then got Activision Blizzard earnings, the unfortunate and sad situation with their staff, the nuking of over 5 billion gold from the WoW economy via Blizzard's recent banning actions and the whole boosting Fallout, and a whole bunch more. There's, man, if you're interested in Covenants, and hey, lore. Oh, we might actually have some concrete hints of the return of Arthas. That's something Blizzard have teased in interviews, but we maybe have got some material in-game that could back it up. So that can be quite exciting, and that's just like how I've got some material to back you up in the net, and that is NordVPN, today's sponsor, and it's available with my link, 70% off at $3.49 a month, and your first month is free. Now, why get a VPN? Pretty simple. Do you want to watch content from another region, right? Are you in the UK? And you realize Netflix sucks? You want to use US Netflix? Easy, do it. You can use Nord's 5,000 plus servers, just choose your location, and you'll be using the internet like you were there. They also keep you private. Now, your ISP, basically, if you're using Nord, your ISP won't know what sites you use, can't sell your data to advertisers, and they can't, prioritize some of the sites and traffic you use over others. They're also a Panama registered company, so your government can't get to them to breach your privacy. Now, the app and browser extension are super easy to use, and you can get 70% off and a free month at nordvpn.com/Bellular Gaming. A big thank you to them for supporting our team. More on what we're doing with that soon. And with that said, let's get right into the news. So first up in today's news, we've got something that's actually quite exciting. Now, you will have known from the past that Heirlooms no longer have an XP bonus in Shadowlands. That was initially quite shocking to a lot of people, and I totally understand why. We put a lot of gold into those things. But I'll say from an overall gameplay perspective, you don't really need that XP boost in Shadowlands. And this is a wild thing to say about World of Warcraft leveling, but in Shadowlands, leveling 1 to 50 feels really good, is really well paced, and is already much faster than it is on live. By all accounts, it's a great experience, and the problem that Heirlooms were initially created to solve, well, that's a problem that no longer exists. However, Blizzard are actually doing something to make your Heirlooms be good. Now, this only applies to the non-weapon/trinket ones. Your weapons and trinkets, of course, still will exist. They'll do their usual thing, but they won't be a part of this new set bonus. So, let's get into that set bonus. If you've got 2 bits of heirloom gear, then your rested XP will be consumed 30% slower. So basically, I think, 2-3 bars? I think it's 2 bars max of rested XP. If it's consumed 30% slower, that's effectively just a boost to your rested XP duration. So that's really, really good. Now, if you get the 3 set, then it increases your out-of-combat regeneration in the world, in dungeons, and in battlegrounds. I'd say certainly that being in Battlegrounds is interesting. I have to wonder what that's going to do to Twink gameplay, especially in, say, the 19 brackets, so that's one thing. In general, though, that's probably just going to feel super, super powerful. And I guess it just means it'll cut down downtime, which will be, it's already not really downtime, it's not much of a thing when you're leveling, but with this, I assume even less. Now, where it really gets interesting is the 4-piece, because this is where Blizzard are trying to put in some active, aggressive gameplay. So whenever you level, whenever you actually get that ding, and this really feels like an inspiration from just another genre of game, but when you get your ding, well, you'll get a buff. That buff will do holy damage to nearby enemies, and it will give you 40% of your primary stat for 2 minutes. Now, that's quite a lot. Defeating enemies can then increase this by up to another 2 minutes. Now, what I'd say there is, you first have to remember, you're not going to be dinging as much per unit time as you will be right now, because it's like 1 to 60, not 1 to 120. So there is that, but you do level up faster overall, so you will be dinging quite a bit. And where I'd say this is interesting is probably when it is applied to the speedrunners. And with that, I imagine there's quite a few just, interesting solo runs that people will be able to do, being able to get this up to a maximum 4 minutes. And if you think about it, right, in 4 minutes, if you're an unstoppable god, you're probably going to be able to get quite a bit done. So I'd be interested to see just like what grinding spots or things like that could maybe mix in with, with the scaling that's going to be going on with the various continents. Man, there's sure to be some forms of grinding spots that are super powerful. Anyway, so there's that. Then past that, there's the 6-piece, and if you get the 6-piece, then your rested XP is consumed another 30% more slowly, and that does mean a 60% reduction to your rested XP consumption. So if you just leave that character in the inn for 2 days and you come back, I mean, that rested XP, it's going to go so much further, and that is going to be a massive increase to your leveling speeds. So overall, I'd say this is going to be really big. Now, one thing you should remember is that that is rested XP. Now, rested XP does not apply to quests. It only applies to things like killing mobs. And that does make me wonder if things like, say, dungeon running will be super, super powerful here. Certainly food for thought. And then when we're doing dungeon runs, I mean, what's going to be like? If you're dinging in a dungeon, you get this holy power buff and all of those, just all of that stuff. I mean, you're going to be just pumping through that content. So quite interesting. Overall, I'd say these are nice effects. They're quite interesting. I think they make sense in a world where leveling speeds are actually really well balanced anyway. And I really like how there's a few new mechanics here that speedrunners can actually play around with, with that leveling buff. I think that's quite cool. Now, another thing of note is that the draft of 10 lands is the only XP buff that's still going to work in Shadowlands, and that's the 10% one, and all the others are going to be deprecated. So feel free to get those drafts of 10 lands if you want. As for the others, use them up now. But certainly I'll say, if you are using that XP buff and then you've got your full heirlooms on and you've got that 6 set, you are going to be leveling up quite a bit faster. It's not going to be the craziness of some of the past really gaming it techniques, but it's still going to be pretty darn good. Now that said, there's another thing to talk about with leveling, and that is that, and this is really just a UI, like a framing thing, but I think that's important for new players. Basically, the time-walking journeys are in. You might be thinking, what's a time-walking journey? Well, I'd say don't get too excited. It's basically just codifying something that Blizzard actually hint at in their blog post that announced the heirloom changes, where you can level up 1 through 50 in an expansion, experiencing its entire storyline. The time-walking journeys is basically just the UI that you'll get when you talk to Chromie when you're level 10, and from there you'll be able to choose where you want to go. Now, this is actually really interesting because it codifies the timeline split between BFA onwards and legacy content. The default experience now is you do Exile's Reach up to level 10, then you do Borealis, or Kulturas or Xantalar from level 10 through 50, and then you go straight from that storyline into Shadowlands. The only thing I'd say there, Blizz, is it would make a lot of sense if you were to have some sort of thing be added so that people who finish that BFA storyline get some way of knowing what happened in the end game of BFA's story before they go into Shadowlands. I think that would make a lot of sense. But other than that, that's basically the 100% new modern leveling flow. And then everything else is, yes, relegated to time-walking journeys. And I think that's actually really good because it means there'll be less confusion with old players. They will know that when they're doing Wrath of the Lich King, for example, that they'll be just going back and doing an old story. So overall, I would say, sounds good. Makes sense. Okay, moving on past that, let's actually talk a little bit about the general, sort of state of the health of Activision Blizzard as it pertains to us as WoW players, because, of course, their earnings call did happen. Overall there, what do you need to know? Well, basically, World of Warcraft is doing strong since Classic. It is just a more robust product, essentially. Anchorage has been something that they actually picked up as being a really big engagement point for World of Warcraft, which is, of course, nice to see, and the news surrounding that's been quite cool to follow as well. Then as for Shadowlands, well, of course, we don't have any specific numbers, but they have said that it's tracking very well in its pre-orders and things like that, and that franchise engagement ahead of a new expansion is actually at its highest point in a decade. And that does mean it's better than Mists of Pandaria, Warlords of Draenor, Legion, BFA, and that certainly is impressive. Now, that's something that's certainly interesting for me to hear, and I have to wonder, what do they mean by engagement? Is that purely just players who have maybe logged in the last 6 months? Because if so, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people in those 6-month subs that would be included. There's going to be, a lot of people that came back for Classic, so that would really boost up that number. I also have to wonder, is this something that includes other community numbers? I know that a lot of game companies and analytics firms, they track things like total number of Twitch, total number of YouTube, and that's something where YouTube content for World of Warcraft, YouTube's getting bigger. The YouTube content's doing pretty well. There's many millions of views there. Then for Twitch, you've got specific outliers like Asmongold, one of the largest people on Twitch as a platform, who's probably going to drag up that number. So I'd have to wonder just how much of that is flat out pre-orders and people playing WoW or sub to WoW versus Twitter mentions, Twitter impressions, all of that other stuff, because I do know, those are all numbers. I can tell you for a fact that Blizzard does collect. I mean, as any sane business would, and indeed, as we do. We, of course, look at our numbers too. So pretty normal stuff. Anyway, your TLDR there is, WoW is actually doing pretty healthy as far as the bean counters are concerned. There's also, of course, and I think you might be interested in this, Diablo Immortal. Or is it Diablo? Diablo or Diablo? Which one do you think it is? Anyway, that's going to be launching into internal testing within Blizzard soon enough. They also released at China Joy a trailer for that game. Of course, Immortal was a very controversial thing. Now, Activision, of course, are extremely happy at the concept, given COD Mobile success. Now, you might not know, we do another channel that follows like game industry news. COD Mobile did the most insane stuff, between it and Warzone, the most insane stuff to Activision Blizzard's MAUs. I mean, with the two of those, Activision Publishing is utterly dwarfing Blizzard Entertainment in terms of the MAUs, because Warzone and COD Mobile, the free-to-plays, they're mega successful. And yes, they obviously will want to see that again with Diablo Immortal. And hey, it's an ARPG. I actually think they do actually work on mobile surprisingly well. For me, it's the situation where I'm sure that of those mobile ARPGs, Diablo Immortal's probably going to be the best of them, right? It probably is. It's certainly having a lot of work put into it, but it all comes down to monetization, business model. Are they going to do a bunch of nasty, mean stuff? That's really what matters, and right now, we just don't know. But anyway, there you go. That is the overall kind of rough health of Activision Blizzard as pertains to us Blizzardy people. The next up for our major stories, this is something that I find is just to be interesting. Now, there's no solid literal spoilers here. I mean, there kind of is, but it's more that there's something that Blizzard have been hinting at in Q&As, and if you actually look at the data mining, while the thing they've been hinting at has not happened, there's a bit of supporting evidence that has happened, and it's to do with the character that, we all, I think, care about quite a bit. So, Blizzard developers, they have hinted that Arthas went to the Maw in multiple interviews. And they also said, it's worth saying, that Arthas is not a character they bring back lightly. They wouldn't want to, waste that or just have it be a tiny little thing. Basically, Arthas probably went to the Maw based on the current lore of the Shadowlands, and if they ever were to bring Arthas back, they'd have to do it well, because it's Arthas. You don't want to mess that character up. And this is where we get to the end of the Kyrian Epic Covenant campaign. So, Uther features heavily in the story of the Kyrians, and part of his story is he sort of turns into one of the, maybe nasty Kyrians, you'll get into that lore, he's sort of like an antagonistic character in a way, but a part of that is that happens because he was ascended, right, too quickly. And he was ascended too quickly because of his special connection to the Maw. Now, who put Uther into the Maw? Well, Arthas killed him, slurped him up into Frostmourne, and there's something going on there, right? When Frostmourne was shattered, did those people go to the Maw? What the hell was going on? Certainly the likes of Frostmourne, they were stolen by the Nathrezim from the Runeforger in Torghast. So that's all sort of jailer-ish connected Maw stuff. So maybe that's where all those souls went. So to that end, basically, Uther appears at the very end of the campaign. He appears to remember actually Arthas killing him. I think the way he says it is, I remember him standing over me, or something along those lines. That's really interesting, because this is Uther in the Shadowlands expansion, specifically mentioning Arthas. We know that Arthas is in the Maw based on Blizzard interviews. Now, at this stage, Uther is still in his corrupted Kyrian form, right? He's kind of like the more bluish gray tones, but a bright, shining, golden, proper ascended Kyrian model of him has been data mined, and that does suggest that he eventually is redeemed from the current state that he is in. And I do think this all suggests that Blizzard are actually working out, how can we get Arthas be involved? Now, this is when I would say, remember patch 7.3, right? Remember Argus, and how they really tried to make that feel like a mini expansion. So many zones, such epic lore that was like a big departure from where we had been thus far in Legion. So because of that, I have to wonder, does Blizzard want to replicate that? And one way to replicate that would, I think, obviously, it would be a meaningful Arthas return. Now, there is one little thing that's kind of, I don't really think it's supporting of that, but Sapphiron, right, who, of course, was, the big dragon from Nax, is sort of back, right? Sapphiron, I think she has been data mined. Now, of course, Kil'jaeden is a character who does return in the Shadowlands, and it could be that. It also could be an Arthas thing, but suffice to say, very interesting stuff indeed. It's that sort of thing. Normally, I would say, no, don't bring Arthas back. Leave him dead. Leave the story done. That's normally what I would say. And a bit of me still does say that. But also a bit of me knows just how much Blizzard are aware that if they mess up Arthas, they're going to be killed. And I think it probably means that Blizzard, they wouldn't bring back lightly. And if they're going to actually properly give it a good run, then yeah, why not? It certainly could be a major touch point, sort of rallying point for the WoW community, and it could be a pretty darn big boon to the game. Of course, hopefully if they do it, they just do it right. Anyway, let's talk about doing something wrong. Do you want some salacious, juicy drama? It's got money, it's not really a pyramid scheme, but it's something that's fun. Gallywix has been got. No, I don't mean Bobby. I mean the highly effective boosting organization, the Gallywix boosting community, they've been got. Now, the way it would work is that essentially for a management fee, they would mass run gold boosts. And they would basically have a large network of individuals, parties, and guilds who would be there as boosters, and the sort of Gallywix core like management staff, what they would essentially do is facilitate the whole thing. And by all accounts, they ran a real tight shop. You know, they had Discord bots, so whenever somebody actually wanted, and this is gold boost, by the way. Whenever someone wanted a gold boost, the Discord bots would like ping about automatically and try to get people in. And yeah, right. So they had this thing going on. And that, of course, means a lot of gold is being generated. Now, for the guilds who were like just providing boosts on Gallywix, well, that was just a way for, the guild members to make some money. It was a way for the guild banks to be filled up. Totally normal stuff. There's a demand for some sort of service. There are people in the market who are willing to provide that service for money. Fair enough. That's all great as long as it's not RMT, real money trading. It's all good by the book. However, management were skimming gold off the top, right? And what were they doing with that gold? I mean, because you can only buy so many long boys, because what they were actually doing is they were selling that gold for like 5 times cheaper than WoW token. A lot of, a decent amount of people bought that gold, including Scripe. Method Scripe, now Echo Scripe. He's the raid leader of Method, raid leader of Echo, and credit to him, he took the fall for it. I'm sure a lot more of those players were involved, but he's the person who has publicly taken the fall for purchasing that. He actually purchased gold from Gallywix, and this is not a dramatic thing to say. Scripe tweeted this. He came fully out, transparent, clear. And I mean, yeah, should you buy that gold? No. Do I at least have some respect for just saying, yup, I broke the rules, absolutely. On Twitter, yeah, fair enough. And I have to wonder, could it impact Echo that he raid leads for, who of course Echo are basically like the Method Raiders sort of reforming into like a, top-end WoW raiding guild. So basically that happened, and there are some fun things here. Like there's estimates that with the banking characters of Gallywix that were banned, just over 5 billion gold has been removed from the economy. That's kind of interesting, but ultimately, right, the demand still exists. People want to put their characters through content. They maybe don't have the skill to do it themselves, they don't have the time to do it, they don't have the organizational sort of stuff around them, so they will purchase boosts. This is something that will continue, no shadow of a doubt. You know what? Blizzard probably makes great money from it because, let's be real, the types of people who are purchasing boosts are what, if we were in the mobile gaming world, or, maybe just the Blizzard world, they're what you'd call whales, right? The people who will spend a disproportionate amount of money in the game. The people who will purchase their WoW tokens instead of earning the gold in-game. The people who will consistently purchase store amounts. Those are the people who are worth the most to Blizzard because, unsurprisingly, they're putting the most money into the game. They are the most valued customers. Now, if somebody wants to get a mythic raid or something like that, it's just fine for Blizzard that they can purchase that for a shed load of gold instead of doing RMT, because if they buy that gold without token, then for every, 200k, Blizzard gets their cut. So, makes a lot of sense. I think boosting is something that's great for Blizzard. I think it's actually something that will continue, just, it'll be for gold only, and I think what Blizzard will do is they will really try to continue their crackdowns and spam, things like that, such as the recent moves we saw them make with shutting down promotions for boosting services in the pre-made group finder. The next up, we've got a really great story with the Shadow Priest rework. Of course, we've already done a video on this, so I'm not going to belabor you all the details again. I've already done that. You can go watch the video. A lot of people like the video. I think a lot of people are very interested in what this rework is like. And basically, I describe it as a shaman-style one where, the spells look the same, they have the same names, and they just do different things. Overall, I'll say I feel positive about it. It is a less ambitious design, yes, but it's one that actually will work with the game. We found that the Shadow Priest Discord was generally happy enough, but there was a group, I believe they called them the Voidform Bandits, or something like that, but there was a group who were very much not happy that the Legion era Voidform was being abandoned, and on that, I mean, I agree that this was the right move and is a better design for this in the real world, but I will empathize with the people who are sad about that Voidform going, because it was genuinely cool. Yes, was it busted that you were doing 12, well, some people could do 12 million DPS on Amtor and High Command. Yeah, totally busted. A bit silly, doesn't really work with WoW, but yes, I will give people it was a really cool, really satisfying design. It's just one that to balance it got neutered and neutered and neutered over time. The poor thing had no balls left, and once it hit Shadowlands, it was time for a change. Okay, another part there is communications kind of interesting. Blizzard were super silent about this, and this is my personal speculation. I kind of suspect they spent a long time trying to get that old school, well, Legion old school, Voidform to work, but I think they just couldn't, and I think that they're probably quite sad that it's came to this, but that overall, they've made the right decision, and this is far better than what most Shadow Priests expected, which would just be that they'd be a bit busted for a whole expansion. And speaking of a bit busted, we do have the very sad news of Blizzard's staff and the underpayment. Basically, there's been a bunch of internal surveys at Blizzard trying to address, basically, I think it was over 50% of staff being unhappy with their compensation, which is a very bad thing if you are running a large company and most of your staff are a bit pissed. There's lines coming out of this, such as staff saying that they are just losing their mentors in droves, really suggesting that the higher-end Blizzard staff are, leaving. There was one example of a product manager. She moved from Blizzard to Riot, and it was almost instantly double the wages. There's also the whole honor points thing. The honor points thing was wild. Somebody literally was doing overtime and was really excelling well at their job. So, instead of getting some money, some sort of performance-based bonus, they got honor points. Bit weird. Also staff, and that's something that Wowhead have actually since independently verified. There's also the situation of, people sort of reportedly getting things like 25-year game cards and stuff like that. And a lot of this ties into the Irvine cost of living and comparative wages between companies in that area. But even in the Versailles office, they do underpay as well for Versailles. And the thing is, I've already done 2 full videos on this. We really go into depth. There's a bunch of a few personal anecdotes for me, because of course, I've worked pretty close with Blizzard, right, over the years. So that's on our news channel. We do a news channel. You can check out the news channel. We do like 15, 20 minutes of content there a day. And certainly if you're interested in the social issues in gaming, there's the Riot Neum story we covered, which was, really insane. Riot actually signing up with a city where like a whole bunch of their casting desk would be, would actually have legitimate security concerns going to that country because of, blatantly terrible ways of treating humans for being born the way that they are. So that was really quite horrible and nasty stuff. So there's that. There's all of, there's the Blizzard story. There's Ubisoft. Oh boy, Serge he really did a number on, Ubisoft's games and unfortunately a lot of other stuff with staff. So anyway, there's, allegedly, but enough to get him the boot. Yes, the news channel. We do a gaming news channel. There's also a lot of other industry stuff there as well. So you can check that out for more, just for more info on this story. Okay, with that, let's continue with Warcraft news. So, the state of the beta. The wipe has happened, the Great Wipe. Many people testing characters have wept since yesterday, but the character wipe is a good thing. It's moving us on. There is a bit of a bad thing, though. In fact, there's a bit of a big mistake, and that is there's no endgame templates right now. There's just level 50 templates. Now, I assume this is Blizzard wanting to test leveling and stuff like that in a more realistic fashion, which is fair enough, but still, there's stuff like a lot of soulbinds being iterated on, a lot of endgame stuff we'd really love to test. Not having pre-made max level characters really sucks for that. And in terms of other things, yes, as I said, soulbinds are being iterated on, and things like the weekly chest objectives all being iterated on. I don't think it's worth really getting to the details here because this is just stuff that's going to be in flux for a little while. So that's the state of the beta. In terms of other things, motion sickness data mining. Yes, it suggests that an option to have your character sort of always be centered in the screen will be there, that there'll be camera motion reduction and anti-shake stuff or camera shake. And here's what I'd say. A part of me also wonders if this would be really useful for some competitive setups. So there could be that, but it's also great to see Blizzard work on accessibility. You've got their colorblind options, which are apparently great. You've got things like this, and then their support for the Microsoft Adaptive Controller. That's all really cool. So a big thumbs up to Blizzard there. And then next up, we've got another bit of new information that is really quite incomplete, but does gives us something important to talk about. So, right, Renown. It is basically your new AP bar, just that actually it's got a weekly cap and it's impossible to infinitely grind it. So no, there will be no big infinite AP grinds where you're just going to be playing every single world quest every day until you keel over. Not going to happen. So currently, right, the Renown rewards have been data mined. Now, Renown is basically the progress bar, the main progress bar that you've got with your Covenant. And it really is just your overall Covenant progress. And it does matter for cosmetics, and it also matters for your player power, because things on it include soulbind tiers. That means more perks for your character, more conduit slots, things like that. So that's super important. Also, world quest reward upgrades. Then, of course, your Sanctum upgrade, like its research tree, being able to go further down on that. That's tied to Renown. There's also things like pets and the Covenant signature like activity access. So say the Path of Ascension, different, or the Queen's Conservatory, like different levels of that. Now, of course, from what we also understand, that's where you'll also be getting things like your back transmog and your main transmog set and your mount. Most likely, we'll just have to wait and see. Now, from what we understand, basically the way it works is that doing the Epic Covenant campaign at max level and the 2 weeklies is just what will cap Renown, okay? Now, this does bring us to the Soulbind angle. Soulbinds are maxed out at Renown rank 39. We're not sure how long that's going to take, of course. Now, this is something that you might immediately think, oh dear, is this like AP and Legion where we had to get to the bottom of the tree as quickly as possible? No, it's not, because your weekly earnings are capped, right? So on your character, if you're just doing all your weeklies, that's it. You're just all going to be going like that. Nobody will be able to outgrind faster because it has a weekly cap. And also, there is going to be catch-up there from the very start. So if you are a little bit behind, you can basically just continually do content to get more renown, and you'll be able to be caught up in a way where it seems like you really will be able to sort of race your way sort of back up to the top. However, switching Covenants, it is going to suck. Because you won't have renown with your new Covenant. And that's a bit of a, well, not a problem, but it does make sense in the design of the system, the way that Blizzard actually wants it to be. So you won't have renown with your new Covenant if you switch to your new one. And that does mean that Covenant soulbinds, you won't have high ranks of them be unlocked. And that does mean that your character will be at a power disadvantage. So this really does mean that you want to choose the right Covenant on day one. You just want to go deep on that. Now, it is the case that if you choose to swap your Covenant and you want to get all your renown back, you will be able to have accelerated progress with that Covenant by just grinding out a whole bunch of content past doing your weekly. So I can see the issue that people are going to have there. I think the grand scheme, it's not the biggest problem ever because of at least the way we think they're doing the new catch-up. A lot of this will depend on how that new catch-up is actually implemented though. But certainly for a lot of people, there is just lingering concern about what Covenant swapping is going to be like if you're a very gameplay-oriented player. And I think that's just going to be a concern that many people are going to have until we fully see this system in operation. And I guess on that topic as well, the new conduit stuff is in, and basically it just kind of looks like the Essence system. You just have, your 3 different categories, they're up there in, a little sort of tab, and yeah, that's it. That's what the UI looks like, and I think just by seeing the UI kind of gives you a fairly good idea of how the system is going to work. So that's our main stories. We do have a few other things to round it off, though. One bit of good news and one that's also very heartwarming, and I'm very glad that Blizzard did. So, you can tame cloud serpents. You will need to purchase a book that you can only do if you're exalted with the Order of the Cloud Serpent. And I think that's great. Gives people a reason to go back and do that great bit of content to actually, unlock those cool mounts. And yeah, if you're a hunter, that's pretty sweet. And also if you're a hunter, Blizzard are really doing just a great job just over the last few months of, and on Shadowlands as well, of just increasing the amount of tames you can get and even the diversity in some of the, like the sort of beast categories as well. So that's been really nice to see. And another thing that is also really important to see is Wreckful. Yes, Wreckful got his tribute. Of course, very sad story there. I mean, story's not the word I want to use. Yeah, Wreckful's gone. It sucks. Obviously, it's terrible. I suppose a bit of silver lining in that is that a lot of mental health awareness has came out of that. And, hopefully the education there and just the community banding together in a positive manner will, you know, will make people more aware of mental health and more just feeling like it's more okay to reach out and to actually seek help. It's nice that Blizzard chose to put Reckful in the game as a rogue trainer. So it's a good move that Blizzard did, and it's always heartwarming. Yeah, and good whenever they do things like that. So there you go. That is the World of Warcraft news for this week. Overall, actually, hang on, is there... Well, no, there's one thing that's obviously really bad. That's the Blizzard working conditions and sort of pay stuff. That's terrible. As things pertain to the actual video game that is World of Warcraft that many of us do enjoy playing, yeah, it's pretty much good news across the board. I think great stuff with leveling, interesting lore being teased, and a whole bunch of systems just advancing and progressing. So do let me know what you thought about all of that stuff. Of course, if you want to support our channel, then check out NordVPN, who are so kind to sponsor this video and have been a great partner for us. And you know, that's obviously the sort of thing that, you know, it helps us grow, and you're pretty soon going to be seeing what that actually means, because, you know, when we actually increase the revenue that we get, what do? We reinvest that back into content, back into production. We've got 2 new people joining our game team, and of course, we're going to be soon doing the basic sort of like marketing executive person, sort of community manager to help us out in YouTube, and that's something that is going to free up so much of the stuff that I end up having to, you know, sort of do every day that takes me away from, you know, the thing that I actually, you know, the sort of value that I create, which is actually creating content. So there'll be more of that for you. So yes, thanks to Nord for supporting us. Thank you to you for watching today's video. And with that, I'll see you next time.